It is once again fight week in Vegas. Sin City set to play host to the biggest star in all of boxing when unified super middleweight champ Canelo Alvarez looks to achieve undisputed status in the 168-pound, I should say, division. But in order to do so, he'll be going up against IBF champ Caleb Plant. It all goes down Saturday, November 6th at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Vegas, airing live on Showtime pay-per-view. Here is more from both Canelo and Plant today.
Just days out from Caleb Plant, Canelo Alvarez, all four super middleweight world titles. Brian Campbell, Luke Thomas, your morning combat host here, looking to wrap up what we just heard with a press conference that was far less violent, I guess you could say, than the first one in September. But what do you think overall, Luke, we learned from today?
Well, first of all, great job doing the Q&A. I appreciate that. I would say I think both guys are a little bit tired of all the cameras. They seem a little bit tired of all the media, which is understandable at this juncture. We're days away from the fight. They've done the all-access thing. They've done multiple scrums and radio tours. It has worn on them at this point, to the point where they have nothing else left to say except answer questions about legacy and what this means in the case of Canelo for his Mexican and larger Latino audiences and whatnot. It was straightforward, was it not?
It was cordial.
It was cordial.
It was professional.
It was not tense. I didn't feel, but they're not going to face off, right? So
no.
They took that part away, which may have escalated things.
Which you can argue that both ways, by the way, in terms of the entertainment factor or just the factor we've got both fighters here. We've got a fight Saturday night. Let's wait until then. But with that said, on that note, Luke, Caleb Plant said, look, it's been a little bit more of a media fixation, that fight we had, that skirmish. Well, there's a lot to fixate about, okay? When two fighters let their hands go so quickly at a press conference ahead of a big fight. Do you feel as we're getting closer and seeing the demeanor of both fighters that whether or not that's going to affect the fight at all is moving further in the rear view?
I just don't see how, if the animosity was consistently bubbling over, if it was a constant theme of their interaction, if it was just ever present where they had to get security and whatnot, at that point, I think questions about to what extent being in someone's head or whether or not they have enough professional bearing and composure is relevant. In this case, you have Canelo, who is about as experienced as a headlining professional in boxing possibly can be. Caleb Plant, not to that extent, but certainly not new to a relatively big spotlight that boxing has to offer. I just don't feel like I know what you mean because of the first initial press conference. You thought, wow, they're just going to get at each other's throats. But both of them have, it seems like, independently decided to dial it back so that when they win or when they lose, it will be based on skills. Skills win fights in the end.
True.
Not so much animosity, unless it's just out of control animosity, which it was not here.
Caleb Plant took home a souvenir from that press conference. You can see the marking underneath, of course, his right eye. That's all finished business for them. The unfinished business is what happens in the ring. So as we get closer, just 3 more sleeps, as the great John Anik would say, until Saturday night. Expectations for what type of fight we're going to see. Both fighters have been short, quick with their responses in that lane. We know Caleb Plant more the traditional boxer, but he's more aggressive than a traditional boxer. We know Canelo, by this point in his career, he can fight any style.
Right.
We're going to be tactical early and aggressive late. How do we sort of try to handicap ahead of time? Maybe not who's going to win, just as much as who's going to take the lead, who's going to set the terms, and how this fight's going to be contested.
Yeah, if you're a team Canelo and your guy is as multifaceted as we proclaim him to be, and I don't think that's unfair. I do think he can fight going forward. He can fight backing up. He can fight opponents that want to get in close, and he can fight opponents that want to dance on the outside. And he's beaten, to your point on the stage, all of them except one, although, of course, there have been a few, let's say, close-ish fights along the way.
I may have scored 1 or 2 for Gennady Golovkin. Nobody needs to know that.
I understand it. Or Lara, or not so much Trout, but certainly Lara probably had a case as well. But here's the point I want to make. I was actually going back and I was texting you this the last couple of days. I've been going through and just rewatching as many old Caleb Plant fights as I could. I went back and looked at the Uzcategui fight. And in that fight, one of the times where Uzcategui is not Canelo, not by a million miles.
He's aggressive. He hits hard. Does he have the same craft? No.
No, he doesn't. There's not nearly the same kind of footwork or feints or reactive decision-making. However, what was one place where he had a lot of success, at least late? It was in close. And Caleb Plant actually accommodated him in something of a phone booth fight. Now, not totally, not...
All right, those are our guys on the Morning Combat podcast. Of course, they have a lot more to talk about, so make sure to download and follow that podcast. It is everything you need to know, not just in boxing, but the world of fighting in general. Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell, as you can see, they're on the scene in Vegas, getting ready for this showdown Saturday night. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.